Hey, everybody. I want to talk to you about your retention assessment. I don't think I had anyone that got every question right. So when you get your questions back, don't be freaked out. Remember, I did say I'm taking a grade on this, but I'm going to give it back to you so you have an opportunity to fix it. What I wanted to do is kind of go through because I made some notes on your papers, but for the most part, if you didn't show me your work, whether you got the answer right or wrong, you don't know. I marked it wrong and wrote work, question mark. So if you have something that's marked wrong and says work question mark, don't think that the answer is necessarily wrong. It might be, it might not, but I can't tell, neither can you because you don't have any work to show and support your question. So if you're able to show me the work and you get that answer, keep the answer, but make sure that the work looks good. The other thing is, I had a couple notes on some of the questions where people were kind of in the right direction, and some of you missed some units and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for a moment so you can get your retention assessment in front of you on number 1 and with your pencil, because any one that you had wrong, I want you to write the lesson number and circle it so you can look back to chapter 1 and look at that lesson number to get some guidance on how to do the problem. Because today, what I want you to do with your time, those of you who are doing your retake on the post SLO, the post test, do that first. But then I want you to go through and fix this. If you finish it today, you can turn it into the substitute. They will take it from you. If you don't finish it in this 40-minute time span, that's okay. Work on it independently on your own. You may use calculators. If you don't finish, just take it home. You can bring it to me tomorrow, but I do need it back ASAP, okay? I want you working on this independently, so not in groups or partners, because I want to hear what you're thinking and see what your thinking is. I've given the substitute a key for this and information on how to solve them, but I've also directed them not to give you any information unless you have looked back at the lesson, worked out some things and you're really stuck, and maybe they can guide you a little bit. Still not giving you the answer, but guiding you towards that. I want you to really work for these because this is what you've retained or not retained. Okay, on this first one, it is going to be lesson 1 on rates, unit rates. So write that down if you missed that one. We've already, I think a couple classes have talked about that before. On this one, it's also lesson 1. And I want to remind you that you're looking for the highest unit rate, and that should be rate, not rice. So look for that highest unit rate on that one. Some of you marked the lowest. Some of you didn't set up the unit rate properly. Maybe you went ounces per dollar instead of dollars per ounce. So think about that and how you'd like to set those up. These ones down here, folks, these two are just straight up problem solving questions that you've been working on for years, but they're difficult. So draw a picture if you need to, show your work if it doesn't fit here, show it on another piece of paper and staple it to this when you turn it back in. And this one you need to think about, what do I need to know in order to solve this? You're missing a bit of information. So start to solve and think, oh, I need that info, and that's what your answer is going to be. Some of you put like numbers. It's not a number answer. It asks what other information is needed. So you're missing some info. Okay. This one on top here is a proportion that you're going to solve. This is going to be from lesson 6, but my tip is line up hours to hours, people to people before you can make that choice. And it's okay. It can be on either side of this. If you have something that looks like this, but you flip-flopped it, that's fine. The proportions can be on either side. They're still equal, so not a big deal. On this one, it's the same thing. Lesson 6. Same thing. Mark up gallons to gallons, miles to miles, but here's the trick. They need to travel 200 more miles. So you might need to do some adding there before you set up your proportion. Okay, number 7 is also going to be lesson 6. A lot of people forgot units on this one, but set up the proportion. You just need to go gallon, gallon, miles, miles. This last one on this page is a different lesson. This is lesson 3. Remember, my trick for you on this one, this is a conversion problem. So you need to know how many minutes are in an hour, and then you need to set up those hours and minutes where you need to set them up. It goes like this. Remember, set them up so that you can cancel out whatever you're needing to get rid of so that you're left with what you want on the bottom. Okay, so lesson 3 will have some really good examples for those. On the back here for number 9, this is lesson 7 on rate of change. Show me your work here with the rate of change and think, How are you going to show rates of change? Is it going to be hours per miles or miles per hour, or what's going to jive there? We talked about number 10 in a couple of the questions or the classes. You need to figure out from lesson 8 what slope is and where to find it, how to find it. Once you find it, you're going to need to really pay attention. If you're trying to find the difference between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., it is not 7, because time does not go by a base 10. So to count from 10 a.m. up to 3 p.m., going through 12, all that good stuff. This one down here is tricky for some people. It says constant rate of change. It does not have to be proportional. So you do not have to divide these out and find the proportional one. I know that we had to do that on the assessment. It asks for which one's proportional. This one's just asking for the constant rate of change. So I want you to mark all that apply. This is one that's going to have more than one answer. So maybe you marked C thinking you had to mark the proportional one, but that's not the only one that's proportional. I mean, excuse me, that's has a constant rate of change. Okay, number 12 up here. This is going to be back to lesson 6. Again, you're setting up a proportion. Because they're both ounces, you might need to think about which is apple and which is orange. You might need to put an A and an O on when you're setting up the proportion to make sure that they're aligned properly. Okay, this one is also lesson 6. Some people forgot their units on this one, and some people just didn't show me their work. You can set a proportion up with either of these, or you can solve for the unit rate for how many people get 1 ounce or something like that, and then multiply that out. So look back into lesson 6 for that one. Okay, this one is kind of lesson 5 and 8. It's a little bit of both, mostly lesson 8, I guess, but it kind of has to do with proportional. If I had to say look in one place, it'd be lesson 8. The rate of change is in inches per minute, not inches per half a minute. And look, this goes half and this is 1. So if you're using this graph, take a look at that. When you're talking about part B and you're explaining what the 0.00 and 16 means, it needs to be in terms of these words. You need to talk to me about what's going on and what those numbers mean, okay, for 00 and what it means for 16. That's it, folks. You're going to be awesome. Just go back. A lot of you need to tweak. Remember, the biggest thing is if it says work with a question mark, you didn't show me work to support that. Your answer might be right. It might not be. But you'll find out when you do that work for me, all right? Thanks so much.